Hello, welcome to the People Profit Podcast, the show where we flip the script on traditional business thinking and prove that when you put people first, profits follow. I'm Sandra Coker, your guide on this journey to more engaged teams, loyal customers, and a healthier bottom line. These episodes are brought to you by Human Power Solutions, helping organizations unlock the human potential that powers performance. Whether you're a leader, an HR pro, or a curious change maker, buckle up. We're diving into fresh stories, real-world strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Ready to turn your workplace into a profit-powered people machine? Let's get started. Welcome to the People Profit Podcast, where we dive into the heart of leadership and show how investing in your people directly boosts your bottom line. I'm Sandra Coker, CEO of Human Power Solutions and the author of People Profit, How to Improve Your Bottom Line by Investing in Those Above It. Today, we're talking about leadership philosophy in today's workplace, how it impacts team dynamics, decision-making, and navigating change with emotional intelligence, all through the lens of the employee experience. Joining me is Jodi Scott, CEO and co-founder of Green Goo by Spry Life, a family-run maker of plant-based first aid and personal care products. With a master's in health psychology and a background in psycho-neuroimmunology, that's a mouthful, Jodi practices farm-to-formula innovation while prioritizing people-first leadership. She's navigated family dynamics, business sales, and buybacks, all while proving that grounded leaders create conditions for great work. Jodi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Really, very, very excited to have you on the show. I'm really excited. So let's start with your bio. So tell us about your journey from being a clinician in health psychology and psycho-neuroimmunology to co-founding Green Goo.
Well, I got my master's in health psychology and then specialized in psycho-neuroimmunology and was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. And so my goal really was to disrupt how we were taking our traditional approach of medicine, and rather than just prescribing, really looking at the patient from a whole and saying, okay, what are the other habits that they're engaging in? What is their family like? What is their personal life like? And how can we make sure that what we do prescribe is actually going to serve them in the fullest way? And maybe there's some lifestyle changes that could happen. And so mind-body medicine was always very important to me. And my sister's an herbalist and a midwife. And she started studying the practice of making topical therapeutics from plants. And we very quickly identified that here we were living a very healthy lifestyle, but we were making the exception in the first aid cabinet. And we further recognized that we weren't alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told products like Neosporin and hydrocortisone were the only products that could get the job done. And then more interesting to me was that the conventional consumer, they didn't care about the ingredients. They just wanted something that performed better. And here we had seen in the OTC space that most of these over-the-counter products, you had to discontinue use after 7 to 10 days if symptoms persist. And then you had to go see your physician. And they wanted something that was more convenient and was going to work better. So Green Goo was born, and my mom, sister, and I started that brand together with the idea that we wanted to prove that plant-based solutions could be superior in efficacy and also, by the way, provide sustainability and, of course, clean ingredients.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys, ladies, should I say, you built your family business the hard way, right? You were learning, like business 101 in real time.
100%. It was grassroots, went from farmer's market all the way to 120,000 points of distribution in, it was about 5 years. So it was a very quick, and, I had to learn P&Ls and EDI and all the stuff that you do need to do, logistics and manufacturing. I mean, thank goodness I had the background in chemistry in order to take the formulas that my sister was working on and be able to translate that into manufacturing and scaling. And we still make those ingredients ourselves. And you can't get these ingredients anywhere on the market where we take the plants to the manufacturing facility and produce these custom oils that go into these products, which is why they work so well.
Yeah, I love that. I want to just dive into your story, right? So really the family dynamics, right? Mothers, sisters. I have 4 sisters. Yeah, the whole dynamics can be kind of crazy, right? So you got your fight or flight moments, you selling the company, buying it back, nearly losing your homes in the process. Like, how does that affect, you as a person, how you lead, how you think about things?
There's a lot to unpack there. So, from a family perspective, we grew up in the military and we recognized very early that our family was our best friend and we were going to be moving from place to place. And so that bond was there early. And fast forward into building a business together, what we didn't want to do was have that be one, a detriment to growing the company, but two, compromise the relationship. So
Yeah.
we very quickly, instead of being in a place of reaction, we wanted to be proactive. We
Yep.
met with mentors, family offices, therapists, people who had built their own companies or worked with other companies who were family led. And we said, what are some best practices that we can institute now? And
Yeah.
so brought that back to the team and we sat down. And one of them was find everyone's zone of genius and put them in their lane and
Yep.
respect that lane and treat it just like you would any other employee with their job description and trust that they are going to be able to execute on that. So that when you had other employees coming in, they witnessed that everyone was being treated the same. But then also in addition to that, you didn't have that family trigger because when you're in that fight or flight mode, your family knows. They just know how to get under your skin in just the right way.
Yep.
And it can make you very vulnerable and it can compromise the ecosystem. So by establishing that standard, it allowed us to really create the boundaries for success and respect as well.
Oh, wow. Well, that's really, it's gotta be, it's gotta be really hard though, those dynamics, and in some of the hard times, like how did you guys handle the hard times?
And I think by instituting some of these good hygiene practices, we were able to, when things were really difficult, that foundation was there. So fast forward when we sold the company and bought it back, I mean, we had spent so much of our time in fight or flight. And
Yes.
yet, you go through this kind of situation and the way we all leaned on each other and supported each other just further validated that relationship building and the maturity that we had developed as a team. And what was really cool, even just from the culture within our organization, was that our team didn't have the toxicity that's typically associated with a family business, but they also got to feel the family business culture. So when I had less than 24 hours to terminate my entire legacy team, including my mom and sister, my husband, my brother-in-law, best friends who had changed their careers from college, employee number one, it felt very much like losing an entire family. And, the next morning, everyone showed up for the morning meeting and nobody was getting paid, but they're like, what can we do to support each other? So it was really beautiful. But I
That
would
is,
say from a fight or flight transition standpoint, that is where, from a personal development standpoint, we had to really shift
yeah,
because all of a sudden it is not go. It is not grit and resilience is not getting up and just keeping pushing forward. It is stop. It is getting present. And then with that became clarity in terms of the next decision to make.
yeah,
Uh, and especially when you've lost everything and your sense of purpose is gone and you're going, how do we move forward? And it
yeah.
really took that family bond to support each other in order to be able to make the next steps that were necessary to make the buyback successful.
That is an amazing story. And I have this visual in my head of everyone just kind of getting up in the morning and they're different places and getting ready, showering, just like we're coming in. And that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. When we think about this, we think about all of the things that were going on there. The background that you had, that you have, taught you that the body's always listening, right? And so is your company, first per se. How do you think emotional intelligence plays in creating grounded teams where employees can think, create, and care? Because it sounds like you created a team that really cared and created.
Well, and they say neurons mirror neurons. And so it really does start with the individual. When you start to see misalignment or people not getting along, oftentimes it's less about finger pointing and judging the other person. And it's really reflecting and saying, how am I contributing to this? What can I do? And when you spend time investing in emotional intelligence, you have a heightened sense of one, awareness of yourself. Who shows up when you're under fight or flight? What is that? Call it your saboteur, that negative person that may show up that comes from a number of layers, right? Like we all have an upbringing that impacts us in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And getting to know that version of yourself so that you can name it, frame it, and interact with other individuals and bring your interaction above the line. And then by instituting some of those practices that are more above the line, where it is free of judgment, there's empathy, you navigate, you're curious, you innovate. And when that becomes sort of the ecosystem of your engagement with your peers, it's a safe environment for you to fall and to feel safe, to be caught by your coworker and innovate to where you need to go in the next decision, the next process, or what have you. And so I'd say in the earlier days, I felt like it was a luxury and that I didn't have the time for myself to do that. Like I needed to just keep hitting that checklist and keep putting in those hours. And what I quickly identified is it really started with me and my leadership and investing in myself in order for me to set the neurons mirroring neurons, but then also to be able to set the stage to say, oh, we need to invest in this with our team members as well so that we can produce great results. And then all of a sudden your mission becomes so clear because you can say, team, we have a mission and we have a vision, it's sort of the standard practice in business, but do you really know and feel it in a way that your DNA is so cohesive? And by investing in this emotional intelligence, you can also fine tune that mission and vision, get really good alignment. And so, for example, when COVID happened and all of a sudden we went from being in our office to everyone being spread out and we're 99% retail, my team was so gelled that we were able to respond incredibly quickly and still stay in good alignment with the mission and vision.
That's awesome. I mean, you talk a lot about, that regulation before strategy, leaders being grounded and clear first. And it sounds like that's just the culture that you just created, is that everyone's kind of centered in their own selves. And then you create that strategy.
And you never stop investing in that. Like it's one of those things where it's not the cup is suddenly full and it's always full. It's just like working out at the gym. You have to work those muscles on a regular basis. So to your point, you're not in a reactive state and you can stop and really get grounded. And I feel passionate about teaching my team. And what's great is the halo effect that happens with your partnership and your parenting. I watch my daughter institute these practices before she's going into an exam. And it's so great because when you can feel in your body a reaction and get to know why you're feeling that way and getting grounded, it can really give good clarity on why is this decision not sitting well with me? Maybe I need to spend more time here. And, oftentimes we just discount that feeling. It's like, ooh, it's a yucky feeling in my body. I just need to push forward. And instead it can give you a lot of information once you settle it and regulate.
When you sit with it, definitely. I mean, so many of us, I was just doing a facilitation on resilience and change, and, that push through, you've got your resilience, your anti-fragility, and your endurance. And if you're always pushing through and you're hitting endurance, that's a burnout stage that you have. You haven't taken any time to kind of just sit and reflect, on actually what's happening. That's fascinating.
It's so true. And then also, we'll talk a lot about like, don't leave your hand on the hot stove for too long. Like we are humans and we are having human experiences. You need to let yourself feel that emotion. But sometimes it's just as simple as like, okay, that's in the parking lot. Time to walk away.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I've talked about this podcast is really, we really are focusing on the next generation of leaders and really helping them to understand some of the ups and downs of owning business or being an entrepreneur or being a leader.
Running a business is hard. Developing your people shouldn't be. At Human Power Solutions, we act as your outsourced chief learning officer, designing custom learning and development experiences that actually move the needle. No fluff, no cookie cutter workshops, just results. Whether your people need better communication, stronger leadership, or less burnout, we provide strategic solutions that align with your goals and keep your team moving forward. Visit hpowersolutions.com and unlock your team's full potential without disrupting operations.
And I loved, I hope I'm saying it correct, the psycho-neuroimmunology, right? So in today's workplace, when you apply those principles, how does that help teams navigate change? Like, what conditions do leaders need to provide for employees to do great work using some of these principles?
Well, I think it's carving out the time, because when you're in go mode all day long, you're not inviting that carved out time for your team to say, hey, I recognize that you need 15 minutes 5-6 times throughout the day in order to invest in that muscle memory. And you don't need 2 hours of meditation to achieve that. Truly, the science supports 3 to 5 to 8 minutes, as long as you do that consistently throughout the day. And so creating a work environment where you're not pushing people for every minute of the day to be performing an output and saying, hey, take that 10 minutes and go carve it out and go have that time to take a walk, take a couple deep breaths, go look at the horizon, get your body moving. I really encourage a lot of walk and talks when you can. Yeah. It's wonderful that we can do these Zooms, but when you can have a one-on-one conversation with one of your team members over the phone and go. Yeah. It's amazing when your body is moving with your train of thought, what creativity can come to the table. And then you're also not distracted with everything else that's in front of you. Because when you're at your desk, you're in that output mode. So I think it's really important. And I love that you are leaning in more to offering these resources to the younger generation, because they're the ones with like incredible neuroplasticity. Only imagine a world in which you had these tools when you were 13, 14, 15 years old, so that one makes a happier, healthier life for them and a more productive, creative innovation that comes from it. But it's just better leaders. It's a better world. And so I thank you for investing there. And that's an area where I'm intentionally leaning in more as well.
Yeah, I just love it. I mean, I've got some millennials and Gen X or Gen Zers, coming up the pipe, my own. So just kind of watching their struggles and watching like the multi-generations in the workplace and all of that. It's been super interesting for me to kind of watch as they grow in their styles and what they want. I love the walk and talks. So during COVID, while we were doing facilitation and different professional development programs, that was one thing that we always talk to our leaders about, like get on the phone. Like you can take your notes after you hang up, but get outside and so you just reminded me that I got to start doing those again.
And you can record phone calls as long as everyone's in alignment, and you can pop that into your AI. You can get condensed. I mean, there's so many resources in order for you to just be able to be present. And I think that's really the ticket is, what does it take for you to maintain presence throughout the day? And when you recognize you're getting pulled out of presence, what was it that did that? And then investing in that muscle that will help you. And I'll say, like during the buyback, that was one of the greatest gifts, was that I had to invest in that, whether of cold plunging or, these long walks and navigating it. And because then once you're in the hot seat, once you're in the boxing match, you have more, call it Jedi mind control, to be able to stay present in a difficult situation. And in the order to achieve that, you have to invest in that outside of the boxing match on a regular basis to stay fit for that more challenging moment.
Yeah, like that's such great advice. It really is such great advice. And at Green Goo, you guys practice people first leadership, which this comes through so authentically and clear through this conversation. And you practice that people first leadership in that farm to formula model, right? So how does this shift from being transactional to relational service the employees as well as the customers? So how does it all kind of flow from the employee to the customer experience?
It's interesting because Green Goo at the heart, our mission is spread goodness. And spread goodness is not just spreading these good products on your body, but it is also the act of spreading goodness within the organization, within strangers that you meet in the world, how we use these products. So Green Goo is really, yes, it is high efficacy, plant-based alternatives to your legacy chemical laden products. We have chronic skin conditions at an all-time high, and I love being the solution that is good for you and good for the planet, and that sustainability component. But with that, Green Goo is also a vehicle for just good. It's a vehicle for the organizations that we donate to, the volunteer work that we do, the ecosystem within our work organization, and making sure that it is very much community driven, and also within the team members themselves having that camaraderie. And it's a beautiful gift to be able to be a part of it, and also just to have the team members and the customers align. Like when we were in the middle of the buyback, we had to stop producing for like almost 18 months. We didn't own the company, and hearing the customers come back to us and how this was the only product that worked for them and how much they stood behind the people behind the mission was truly what gave my family and I the strength and the courage to keep going. And I just thank them so much because I have so much more gratitude now for being in this position and not compromising the same way we don't compromise the ingredients. The way we used to make this at home was we grew the herbs, and then we had these kitchen door racks that we would dry, screen doors that we would dry them on, and then take them through this infusion process, and then all these oils that are just so beautiful in it. And to be able to not compromise that and bringing that to the customer and scaling it is just another example of how important it is to protect the integrity of the products and the community that we're building.
Just quickly, can you talk a little bit about what happened with the company and why you didn't own it and how you got it back? Can you just talk a little bit about that transition?
Absolutely. I'd say the condensed version is, as a family bootstrapped company competing with the top companies and organizations in the world, and coming out of COVID and recognizing that we were going to need capital in order to be able to take Green Goo to that next level.
Yeah.
And so we worked very hard to try to find a company that matched our ethos. We had a number of chemical laden brands that were interested in having a natural bolt on into their portfolio, but it just felt disingenuous in our DNA and what we had built. And so, on paper, this seemed like a really good fit. What was nice is we were going to be rolled into a portfolio of other brands of disruptive, innovative, plant-based alternative medicine. And they were well-funded and global expansion. And unfortunately, one of the founders was raided by the feds and faced some legal challenges. That the domino effect that happened was that the company's reputation became tarnished, the capital resource became challenged, and eventually the whole company was at risk. And so it is what it is. And, thankfully it took a while. It took almost 18 months to buy the company back. And obviously it got beat up in the process. We were in at that point, 150,000 points of distribution. We were not in production and very quickly lost all of that shelf space. So we are less than a year in having the company back and slowly but surely building back the inventory. And again, the customers have just been amazing. And it's incredible that either they didn't have the solution that they were looking for, and this still is the one thing that works for them, or they tried something else and they're like, nope, still not as good, and they're back. And it's so special.
That's amazing. And I think, as a family, and we've been doing this series on family succession, and we're not talking about succession or just talking about your family business and those dynamics. To go through that as a family and to be able to survive, and then just like, here we are again, and we're going to actually do even better than we did before. Is that kind of what your mindset is of this as you guys are all back together?
100%. And we're in this for the long haul. I mean, and I love that you're talking about different handoffs from generations to companies. I told my daughter, I said, so you might want to start taking some business classes so you can you better than I did having to learn Business 101 in the field, although you never stop learning. But this is the amount of gratitude we have as a family and the appreciation. And again, taking some of these things we've learned from a personal development standpoint and saying, we are going to maintain this personally and for our team going forward. I'm just really excited to rebuild even the team at like next level performance. And so just what they're going to gain from it as individuals, being able to achieve this kind of existence that is such a gift and a wonderful way to live, and also professionally, put your output.
I love the example that you're setting for anyone in resilience, and for anyone that wants to just pick themselves back up and dust themselves back off. Because I know that as an entrepreneur, I've had several businesses. Some decisions were abysmal decisions that you don't see sometimes, right? But it's how you handle those decisions and how you get yourself back up on your feet and what your mindset is. And I think that the mindset that you and your family are showing and demonstrating to those around you, and now, to our audience, it's just a gift that you're giving. So I truly appreciate you sharing and being so open and sharing your story today.
Thank you. And I thank you for creating the space to allow for these kinds of storytelling to happen so that people can learn from it and enrich their lives and productivity.
Love it. So we have a segment here that we do towards the end of our recording. It's just a rapid fire questions. Don't overthink the answers, and answer what you can. If you're like, I don't want to answer that one, you don't have to. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Are we ready?
Go for it.
What's one word that describes your leadership style?
Compassionate.
Awesome. What's the first thing you do every morning to get regulated?
Put my bare feet on the ground and watch the horizon.
Oh, okay. Your favorite plant or herb you put in Green Goo products?
Calendula.
Oh, I've never heard of that. We gotta look that one up, guys. Okay.
Good stuff.
All right. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Which one were you in most during the company buyback?
Flight, fright, freeze, or
Fawn.
fawn?
Yeah.
This was the rapid fire. I think
Fight.
I think fight if I had to.
I was just in this brief conversation. That's what I would have said too.
Mm-hmm.
So, what song instantly calms your nervous system?
Classical.
Okay, nice. So, if Green Goo made a CEO stress ointment, what would be the hero ingredient?
Ashwagandha.
Okay, nice. And
Holy basil. Both.
Last one. What childhood experience accidentally made you a better boss?
Childhood experience made me a better boss. It's got to be that my dad is a retired general and he loves to read. And so I would constantly try to figure out what he was reading. So I read things like The Art of War as early as like 10, 11 years old. And so reading his literature was at a very young age, which was a very interesting way to be introduced to leadership.
Love it. Love it. Those answers were absolute gold, which is great. Jodi, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring journey and your insights on regulation before strategy, on just the resilience that you and your family have. It's just a powerful reminder of how, we invest in ourselves, we invest in our bodies, we put the right things in, we get the right things out. Listeners, if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe and share this podcast with other leaders, up and coming leaders, people who are going through transitions. We would love to be able to share these stories. Jodi, is there one takeaway for our leaders today that you'd like to share?
Getting present is equitable and it's available to everyone at no cost. You just have to make the choice.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I truly appreciate your time, your advice, your stories. It was really great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of the People Profit Podcast. If you found a nugget of wisdom or even just a spark of inspiration, share the love, subscribe, leave us a review, and pass the episode along to a colleague who's ready to build a people-first culture. Big thanks to our sponsor, Human Power Solutions, for championing workplace where humans thrive and profits rise. Want to learn how they can energize your team? Head over to hpowersolutions.com to get started. I'm Sandra Coker, reminding you that when you invest in people, you invest in profit. See you next time.